Hello, friends. So, today I'll be talking about the planet Venus. Venus, like Jupiter, is a beautiful planet. It represents some of the most beautiful things of our life. Venus represents a spouse, particularly for a man. It represents his wife. Venus represents our love life. Venus is about creativity. Venus is also a significator of marriage, like Jupiter. Venus is about your vitality. Venus is about luxurious goods. Venus is about vehicles. So, Venus represents some of the most beautiful things. Hence, it is considered to be a very, very strong benefic, a very strong natural benefic. Again, like Jupiter, if it's a functional malefic in your chart, it can create a lot of problems as well. Now, coming to houses, Venus does well in a lot of houses. Venus does well in the first house. Venus does well in the fourth house. Venus does well in the fifth house. Venus does well in the ninth house. Venus does well in the 11th house. Venus does well in the 12th house as well. Now, it's one of those rare benefic planets which does well in 12th house. Now, it does well in the first house because, like any other planet, if it is well placed in the first house, it can make a person very beautiful, very charming. It can make a guy handsome. It can give that physical beauty to you. It can also make you, a person who can attract people. That's a good Venus in the first house can do. Now Venus in the fourth house, because fourth house is about education and is about vehicles and is about your mother and so on. So you have a very beautiful relationship with your mother. Your mother may be a beautiful lady. You may be owning a good Venus here. Can help you own a lot of good vehicles, luxurious goods, luxurious cars, and all those things. Fifth house is the house of creativity. Venus does really well in fifth house because it can make a person good in creative field if Venus is well placed here. Venus, like most planet, does well in the ninth house as well. Ninth house is about long distance travel, is about luck, fortune, and so on. So Venus does really well here. A Venus in the ninth house can mean that you may get a lot of luck after marriage. Your wife, if you're a man, your wife can bring a lot of luck with her in your marriage. Also, Venus, I missed this point, but Venus in fifth house is the house of love. So Venus does really well in the fifth house. Now Venus does well in 11th house. The 11th house, most of the planets do well if they're well placed. So Venus also does really well in 11th house. Venus is one of those planets, which I said earlier as well, which one of those rare planets which does well in the 12th house. Because in the Kala Purusha chart or in the natural zodiac, Venus is exalted in Pisces, which is the 12th house. So if Venus is placed in the 12th house, there is a possibility of you becoming a person who can charm the whole world, who can really do well in the spiritual field. A person like Mother Teresa, who's there for everyone. A person like Nelson Mandela, somebody like that, who's there for the general public, whose love is knows no boundaries. That's what Venus in 12th house can do. Of course, the planet has to be in good dignity, well aspected, in good signs, and so on. Now, Venus doesn't really do well in sixth house, in the eighth house, in the seventh house as well. Sixth, seventh, and eighth houses are not really good for Venus. Sixth house is a house where benefics don't really do well, except for Mercury, maybe because Mercury is kind of okay in sixth house. But other than Mercury, most of the benefics don't do well in the sixth house because sixth house is about a fighter. You need a fighter in sixth house, a Mars, a Rahu, not a guru or a teacher here, because sixth house is about disease and so on. It's about competition. Venus doesn't do well in the seventh house as well. It's called as Karakatva Bhavanasha. And I have also done research of a lot of charts. People having Venus in seventh house don't really do well in their love or married life. Not in all cases. Of course, if there are good aspects at good conjunction and if Venus is in good dignity, then it can do well. But generally speaking, Venus is not very comfortable in the seventh house. Venus in the eighth house can mean infidelity. Venus in 8th house can make a person have strong sexual desires, which can, which can create infidelity. That's a difficult position for Venus to be in. Venus is kind of okay in 10th and 2nd house. If it is well placed in 10th and the 2nd house, then it will do well. If it is not well placed, it will kind of struggle. So it's kind of neutral in 10th, 2nd house. Venus is also good in the 3rd house. Decently good in the 3rd house, because 3rd house is also about creativity, right? It's about your communication, it's about your writing skills, and so on. So Venus is okay in the 3rd house. Now coming to signs, Venus is exalted in Pisces. I've already said how comfortable it is in the 12th house or in the sign of Pisces. It's about greater love. Venus does very well in its own sign, Taurus and Libra. So these are the places where Venus does well. Venus is debilitated in Virgo. Doesn't really do well in Virgo, because Virgo is about analytics, whereas Venus is about love. Venus is about creativity. So it's kind of gets confused in Virgo. So it doesn't really do well in Virgo. Venus also struggles in fiery signs like Leo and Aries, even Scorpio and Cancer. It doesn't really do well there. It's not a great friend of Mars. It's kind of struggle with Mars. So Venus conjunct with Mars or aspecting Mars, you know, it means love matters, but and it can give a lot of uh, love tendencies, sexual tendencies. Venus kind of struggle with Sun as well, because Sun is a fiery planet. So Venus, if it is in close conjunction with Sun, there can be some challenges, as far as your vitality is concerned. Venus does well with Mercury. Venus does well with Saturn. These are two planets with whom Venus does really well. They are good friends of Venus. Venus is a great benefic. So is Jupiter. But both the planets are not good friends. So if there is a conjunction between Venus and Jupiter, you will have some challenges in your life. Venus doesn't do well with Rahu as well. Now Venus and Moon is a pretty decent combination. If you have a Venus and Moon in good dignity, there's a possibility that you'll be a beautiful person. You'll be a person who's charming, who's attractive. Venus is okay with Ketu as well, because Ketu is about spirituality and Venus is about love. So it can take your love, no boundaries. So it does well with Ketu. So guys, this is what I wanted to say about Venus. Hope you liked my video. Thank you for watching it. Please do subscribe. Please do share my video. Take care. Ta-da. Bye-bye.